Now to a story that we're breaking right here at RT America. The Green Party has launched an intent to file for a recount of votes in battleground states of Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. The Stein and Baraka campaign is leading a multi-partisan effort to check the accuracy of the machine-counted votes in those states. Dr. Stein says it's in order to ensure the integrity of the elections. Now, earlier, I spoke with the former Green Party presidential candidate, Jill Stein. I asked her about launching this recount effort. Here's what she had to say about it.
This has been a, shall we say, a hack-riddled election, and we have voting machines that are extremely hack-friendly in an election that's been very bitter and contentious, in which voters have been extremely unhappy and kind of had two candidates forced down our throats that people widely objected to. So there's a lot of anguish out there about this election and a lot of concern about, can we assume that our votes are valid and that our votes count? It's very unfortunate that we have a voting system that is so prone to mistakes, to errors, to malfeasance, to tampering. And that's been proven in the laboratory. Many of the voting machines actually in use in Wisconsin and other states have actually been taken out of circulation in the state of California because they've been proven to be so unreliable. So basically, we're calling for, what any person, any voter in their right mind would want, which is that we have evidence that we have a reliable vote. So we're basically calling for a paper count to validate the machine count.
Okay, I see. So you're kind of looking to find the paper trail right now. And when we know that the deadline for filing the recount, at least in Wisconsin, is this coming Friday, what is your campaign doing to raise the funds for this recount? Can you give us some of the groups that are supporting this recount?
So, this is sort of going out through a very diffuse grassroots network right now. And I couldn't even tell you all the groups, but I know that groups like change.org and moveon.org have been very interested. But it's really the election integrity groups that are driving it. We've heard a growing groundswell from our supporters on social media and our campaign supporters that want to know what happened to all the votes, what happened to our votes. How can we rest assured? So we're getting this out through all the social media channels and through news sources like yourself. And people appear to be very responsive and very concerned. So the money is basically coming into our campaign. If there are people out there who want to support election integrity and just sort of having a democracy and a vote we can believe in, it's Jill2016.com.
Is that what this recount is truly about? Because I know that a lot of people are going to think to themselves and go, well, why is the Green Party raising money for this election recount? Why are they doing this? Nope, a lot of people don't seem to understand the purpose of why you're doing this.
Yes, and the Green Party has actually taken a lead role in safeguarding or attempting to safeguard our election system for many years. We actually led the recount in Ohio in 2004 as well, when there was very dramatic evidence of very widespread tampering. You'd think that the Democratic candidate who has more skin in the game here might step up to the plate, but that appears not to be a priority of the Democratic Party. As Barack Obama himself stated recently, they want a smooth transition. And, I think our priority is having a democracy that we can trust and votes that we know are being respected.
And what would you say are some of the more critical steps that the Green Party would suggest that need to be taken across the U.S. in making sure our democracy, especially when it comes to our elections, works properly?
Many things we can do to make sure that they're being properly counted, that they're not getting subject to hacks or errors in reporting, human error, et cetera. For example, just making sure that we have a paper trail and that we should have audits ensured so that we know that the vote count is actually accurate. We need voting machines that are, that are part of the 21st century security effort. The voting machines are extremely outdated. They have little to no security protections, and the people who use them are not really trained in security either. So there are things we can do there. But as your footage there just alluded to, this is not the only problem with the American voting system. You know, it's a voting system from the get-go that is really bought and paid for by deep pockets. Our dialogue is shut down. We have, you know, a lack of coverage by the corporate media that would like to really circle the wagons around the political establishment. We have a lack of open debates. Even when the American people were screaming for open debates in this election, over 75% of Americans were calling for open debates. We need a ballot access process so that it's not just limited to the same old political establishment that's grandfathered to get on the ballot all the time. And opposition candidates like myself spend a year just getting on the ballot before we can really be participants in the conversation. And finally, we need a voting system that allows us to bring our values to the vote. We call for a system known as ranked choice voting. Right now, people go into the polling booth and they vote their fears. So the question was, who do you hate the most? Or who are you most afraid of? And we see what that produces. You know, the politics of fear continues to bring us everything we're afraid of. Ranked choice voting says you rank your choices. If your first choice loses, your vote is automatically reassigned to your second choice.
Like you mentioned, Jill, you have millions of supporters out there across the U.S. You know, they're disheartened that you didn't even get involved or invited, rather, to all of these debates. So I think they want to know what's next for the Green Party. What's the next move for Jill Stein going forward?
So, you know, first I'd say we're going forward full speed ahead on this vote recount, which is very important. And it also, you know, it also puts the Green Party on the map as the leadership that the American people are looking for in this extremely toxic and sick election. We're taking steps to actually redress some of the, you know, really grave concerns about this election. We're actually among the hosts of Occupy Inauguration on the 20th and 21st of January. We'll be standing up to say, you know, we do not consent to empire, to endless war, to the offshoring of our jobs, to the downward pressure on our wages, to healthcare and education that are putting everyone into debt, a generation locked into debt. In fact, we're saying we do not consent. And simply because we have a new authoritarian president is not reason for us to be quiet. In fact, this is more reason than ever for us to stand up and be strong and be mindful of what we did in the 1960s under another very oppressive and corrupt president, Richard Nixon. We brought the troops home from Vietnam. We got the Clean Air Act and the Clean Water Act, the environmental protection. We established women's right to choose under a very conservative Supreme Court. We got worker protections in the workplace under OSHA. So this is about us, you know, realizing that we are in the target hairs. We are the only ones who are going to save us. It's time for us to stand up, to be seen and be heard, in particular to protect really vulnerable brothers and sisters right now, from the indigenous people fighting at Standing Rock, who are fighting for us all, to the immigrants who are in the target hairs. If they put out a registry for Muslims, that's the time for us all to register. You know, we need to throw monkey wrenches into the wheels of destruction that are accelerating under this president.
All right, that certainly sounds like a detailed plan for you in the very near future, Jill. I guess we will be seeing you in mid-January. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today. That was a Green Party presidential candidate, Jill Stein.